throughout your life, you will face very difficult situations. You might be going through one right now. This isn't something unique to you. It's a common experience for all of us. Unfortunately, we tend to believe that life should only be full of happy and fun moments, deceiving ourselves and creating a false reality. Even though we don't like it and try to avoid it, at some point, we will face a situation that will push us to our limits. However, as human beings, we have the ability to control, to a greater or lesser extent, the emotions we feel, and to face complicated situations more effectively and with less suffering. Despite this ability, managing our emotions is not an easy task, especially because no one teaches us this throughout our lives. That's why I'm making this video. I'm going to talk about temperance, one of the 4 historical virtues. To illustrate, I'm going to tell a story. A king summoned the wise men of his court and said, "I have had a precious ring made with a diamond by one of the best jewelers in the region. I want to keep some words hidden inside the ring that can help me in difficult times, a message I can turn to in moments of total despair. I would like this message to help my heirs and the children of my heirs in the future. It must be small enough to fit on the diamond of my ring." All the wise men who heard the king's wishes were scholars, capable of writing great treatises, but creating a message short enough to fit in the ring was very difficult. Even so, they thought and searched their philosophy books for many hours, without finding anything that met the powerful king's wishes. The king had a very dear servant, a man who had also been his father's servant, and who cared for him when his mother died. He was treated like family and respected by everyone. For these reasons, the king also consulted him. The servant said, "I'm not a wise man nor a scholar, but I know the message." "How do you know?" asked the king. "During my long life in the palace, I have met all kinds of people. On one occasion, I met a master who was a guest of your father. When he left, I accompanied him to the door to say goodbye, and as a gesture of gratitude, he gave me this message." The old man wrote the mentioned message on a tiny piece of paper, folded it, and handed it to the king. "But do not read it," he said. "Keep it in the ring. Open it only when you find no way out in a desperate situation." This moment didn't take long to arrive. The country was invaded, and his kingdom was under threat. He was fleeing on horseback to save his life while his enemies pursued him. He was alone, and the pursuers were numerous. At one point, he reached a place where the path ended. Before him was a cliff and a deep valley. Falling would be fatal. He couldn't turn back as the enemy blocked his way. He could hear the galloping of horses, the voices, and the proximity of the enemy. Then he remembered the ring. He took out the paper, opened it, and found a small message that was immensely valuable for that moment. "This too shall pass." At that instant, he realized that a great silence surrounded him. The enemies pursuing him must have gotten lost in the forest or taken the wrong path. An immense silence enveloped him. He no longer heard the galloping of horses. The king felt deeply grateful to the servant and the unknown master. Those words had been miraculous. He folded the paper, placed it back in the ring, gathered his army, and reclaimed his kingdom. On the day of victory, there was a great celebration in the city, with music and dancing. The king felt very proud of himself. At that moment, the old man beside him said again, "Dear king, it's time for you to read the message on the ring again." "What do you mean?" asked the king. "Now I'm experiencing a situation of euphoria and joy. People are celebrating my return. We have defeated the enemy." "Listen," said the old man. "This message is not just for desperate situations. It is also for pleasurable situations. It is not only when you feel defeated, but also when you feel victorious. Not only when you feel like the last, but also when you feel like the first. The king opened the ring and read the message. This too shall pass. And again he felt the same peace, the same silence amidst the crowd, celebrating and dancing. But the pride, the ego, had disappeared. The king could fully understand the message. The bad was as transient as the good. Then the old man said, "Remember that everything passes. No event or emotion is permanent. Just like day and night, there are moments of joy and moments of sadness. Accept them as part of the duality of nature, for they are the very essence of things." One of the keys to mastering our emotions is understanding and remembering that what we are feeling at this moment will not last forever. Do you know anyone who has never experienced happiness, or someone who has never lived through sadness? In both cases, these emotions do not last permanently. Throughout life, good and bad things happen. When we go through a sad moment, it helps to accept and understand that this sadness will pass. Acceptance is not resignation, passivity, or agreement with what is happening. It is simply acknowledging that many of the things that happen to us do not depend on us and are out of our control. Acceptance leads us to proactivity and makes us aware that if we can do something or change our situation, all our energy and intention should be directed in that direction. When we accept something, we are more capable of moving forward. We also should not cling to happy moments. It's fine to enjoy them, but with moderation, without being carried away by the euphoria that makes us forget that this moment too shall pass. People who forget this are never prepared to face difficult situations in life. They live in a bubble that will eventually burst. A wise person enjoys the moment, but does not forget the reality of life. He suffers in difficult situations, but does not let himself be consumed by uncontrolled sadness. This is temperance. The story mentions only two emotions, joy and sadness, but temperance is applicable to any emotion. There is no emotion that, when taken to the extreme, becomes something positive. However, practically any emotion managed with moderation can bring us something positive. Even negative emotions, when controlled with temperance, allow us to gain valuable lessons for our lives. In the words of Seneca, temperance is a virtue that consists of the mastery and moderation of impulses and desires so that they do not drag us into excess or lack. In the words of Epictetus, temperance is a pleasant harmony of feelings, resulting from a life in which desires are controlled and reason is the guide. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, temperance is the virtue that helps us govern and direct our passions and desires, avoiding extremes and maintaining a balanced and moderate life.